Well, good morning, Travels with Dottie here, and today we have the 12th of March, 2026, a very cold morning. It was in the 30s this morning. It's 8 o'clock and it's still like 37. So it's nice and toasty in the car here, and it's Thursday, so it's the Thursday morning breakfast club. Bunch of guys I go to breakfast with on Thursdays here in Artesia, and we're going to Elma's restaurant. It's a Mexican restaurant that serves a really great breakfast. It's right there on Main Street, and I'll as we pull in there, I'll show you the entrance and everything. But today's video isn't about that. Today's video, I'm going to start it here. Is this going to be a little pit stop where I'll show you the breakfast in case you're interested in that. But here's what I wanted to talk about today. This phenomenon with my family, where I have two brothers and two sisters, and they have all separately remarked to me directly on how profound the change in who I am has been since I retired and went on the road. And I don't think that it's just retirement. I don't think it's, and I don't think it's just RV life. I think it's a combination. And YouTube. YouTube, I think there's a lot of value in, especially the guy like me. I'm living alone. To look at a camera like I am right now, and really talk about what's in my heart and what I'm thinking, and in the context of, is it something that I think would be interesting, and at the interesting at minimum, and helpful at best. So I want to try to deconstruct how this happened, and so I was talking to a young client, and he wanted to know what my life was like, and I said, I wish I could remember the words. I said, I feel a sense of joy and utter freedom unlike anything else I've experienced, and I experience it every day. And he for a moment he didn't speak. He said, I've never heard another human being say anything like that. Well, he's young, right? But it really struck him. And I think that the words that I use are joy and freedom. I often use them together. And the emotion that goes with that is a little harder to describe. There was a book years ago called The Unbearable Lightness of Being, and I liken that title, The Lightness of Being, and that resonates with me. There's a lightness of being. That's not to say, hey, I don't have problems, I don't have bad days, I don't get angry, all those things. I'm a human being. I don't show that side of me on camera because it's not entertaining and it's not helpful. I think you see a little bit of frustration when I talk about my critics online. I was listening to a video the other day. It was like the 10 questions that to ask yourself to determine what level of spiritual develop, or what level your spirit is at. And it came from Nostradamus or somebody, I don't know, a name that I recognize, and it's probably malarkey, but it was on the internet, so I watched it. Or actually, I was walking, I was listening to it. It wasn't something that you watch. So I was curiosity. And the first few things that I talked about, it was like, I got the good answer on that one and that one and that one. And then it got to the one where when you're criticized, you feel defensive, angry, but all the things that you don't want to be and I'm like, well, I failed that one. I failed that one. That's not going to be. I'm not going to be a 10 out of 10 here. So I must not be at the highest spiritual plane. And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't care. And I'm like, why don't I care? Well, here's why I don't care. Because let's say there are, you go and reincarnate or whatever it is that you do as a soul, whatever you believe, and you try to achieve this perfection or enlightenment. I guess the Buddhists would call it achieving enlightenment. And you go through multiple experiences or multiple lives to achieve that. The earthbound existence is considered a school, right? So why wouldn't I be upset that I'm not at level 10 or level 9? I don't know what level I'm at. And I don't care. Why don't I care? For exactly the same reason, I wish I could go back to college and not care that it wasn't over. What do I mean by that? I remember looking so forward to college being over and having my degree and being on my own, and it was the sort of the theme of my life as a kid was older was better. Right? You got to do more things. There was, less people telling you what to do. I had less people telling me what to do in college than any other point in my life. And I didn't get it. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize the utter freedom and joy and convenience of college life. And now that I understand that, I find myself hoping, well, I hope I can find a nursing home that's the same environment as a dorm with a meal plan, right? That logic goes to I don't care what level I'm at because I don't care if I'm on level 1. I'm having a blast. I'm in college. This life, I don't care if this is my freshman year or I'm working on my PhD in soul perfection, because every year is an adventure. And that makes me think, I talk about joy and peace, but what's underneath that is something that I wasn't necessarily looking for in particular, but I stumbled across. Like it was so big that I couldn't get around it and I just fell over it. And that's acceptance. Acceptance of my bald head and my, compared to many others, low bank account and middle of the road trailer and 8-year-old pickup truck. And Social Security, not having any kind of significant nest egg like I thought I would have had my whole life, which I could have had if I made a lot different decisions, but I didn't. I'm accepting of who I am. And I think part of that is in RV life and the relationships that I've come to have. It's a community that really has, by accident, acceptance at its core, because we come from all different areas of the country, all different walks of life. Some people that you wouldn't know it by talking to them and sitting in front of a campfire with them, that they're rich, they're wealthy. Money isn't a problem. Usually you can tell those people because they're never talking about money. And then there are people that, live on a Social Security disability check that's $785 a month. And they may talk about money a little bit more because that's their interest lies in being frugal and finding deals, et cetera, et cetera. But in a normal conversation, sitting around the campfire at night or going out to dinner, you can't distinguish between those people with nothing and those people with everything, because in this life you can have everything that you really want. Desire for things has I'd be lying if I said it left me. Kidding? You should see my Amazon account. But a good example is deciding next year I want to have a side-by-side, because I've met all these people that go out a couple of times a week, and it's the center of their social life is going out and exploring the desert around Quartzsite. And I tried it 3 times and I loved it. And the old Rob, I'd already be a side-by-side owner, trust me. I don't care, even if there was a week left in the season, I would have bought, I would have run to the dealer and I would have bought a new one, and I probably would have signed a loan. But now it was automatic for me to say, well, I'm going to start doing my research now, and when I come back in December next year, it's actually December of this year now, believe it or not, but when I come back in December, I'll be ready to make a decision. Excuse me, where is Robin? What have you done with him? That's how, like, my brothers and sisters knew me, is this kind of impulsive, a little anxious, smart. They always said, hey, he's smart, but he's a little anxious. He's not terribly happy. They don't see me that way anymore. They watch my videos. They don't watch all my videos. They're not fans of my channel, but they're fans of me for sure, my brothers and sisters. And I think my sense is they watch it every once in a while to keep getting that glimpse of the new Rob that they only get to see when we get together every so often. When, like we all got together in New York City this past year. And I almost didn't do that. I almost didn't do it, thinking, well, somebody's got to take care of Dottie and all that stuff. And I'm like, what are you thinking? That your whole family's getting together and you're not going to go because you can't, make it convenient for yourself? What are you thinking? How many years do you think you all have left where you're going to get together with your brothers and sisters, the 5 of you? Shut up and make it work. And I did. I can tell you that part of that sense of freedom, do I dare try? I'm going to flip this around. Hang on. Okay, I'm trying to say, do I dare try to go back buy this truck? And you know what? The answer is no. That's way too close. That's way, way too close. There's a big curb on the left there. I'm sure you can see that. So I'm going to be behind. I think I'm at the end of the caravan here, going to Elma's. But I promised you I'd show you where it is. See all these working trucks going by? These are all guys, I think, that work in the oil fields. Tell me I'm wrong. I think I can sneak through here real quick. One of the things you don't hear in this town is beeping horns. I can count on one hand the number of horn beeps that I've heard, despite me occasionally doing stupid things. So we're not far from the restaurant. It's down past downtown, but I can't resist showing you one of my favorite downtowns ever, anywhere, Artesia downtown. the one of the ingredients, freedom is for me embodied by the idea that I can pick up and hook up my home and go anywhere I want, anytime I want, within the bounds of personal commitments I made. And I'm very careful about those commitments. I made a commitment to my friend Jack that I would be in Eagle Nest this summer. Right? Now, I could change my mind and Jack would be disappointed, rightfully so, and it wouldn't ruin our friendship, but I think it would make it less than it could be if I didn't keep my word and spend that time with him this summer. That's the kind of personal commitment I'm talking about. Also, for others, it may be making a commitment to be a camp host in a state park somewhere. Can they get another camp host? Yeah, probably. What does it do for your reputation in the camp hosting world? Not a lot of good. If you're known as somebody that keeps their word and shows up when they said they're going to show up, you'll have more options because of that reputation. And if you're someone that cancels at the last minute, you may have less options. That's just the way life works, right? There's the police. Old-fashioned black and white police cars, and that image to me is from the old days of Adam 12. They didn't call it the cruiser or anything, the squad car. They called it the black and white. Jim, go get the black and white. Pull it around front. I remember an episode, Jim was the rookie, right? And Jim went to gas up the black and white and scratched it. And it's a scratch that you could barely see on camera, a little tiny dent. And the entire episode was about Jim's fear of making that mistake. And this is Elma's. And you know what? I understood that. I understood. You see those old men like me crossing the street in front of my truck? They're with me. They're part of my crew. In a minute here, I'm going to be an old man crossing the street. What do you think of that, guys? So I'll show you what I get to eat, and then we'll continue this discussion. Well, this is my cheese omelet with wheat toast and hash browns, and it was really, really delicious. And I promised you I'd show it to you, and here it is. So we just finished breakfast. Everybody else left, and I am remaining here in the parking lot for a little while to talk to you. And the other element that serves me very well in terms of delivering this feelings of peace and joy that I experience is something that can be equally as harmful. What's that? That is the idea that I mentioned earlier, that I can pick up and go anywhere I want, anytime I want. And I talked about personal commitments. But if you are the kind of person that, and I have been this in my past, where a cure to conflict or discomfort is geographic, meaning I run away from my problems. I don't think that's a big a risk for people our age, because by the time you pass that half century mark, you understand the futility of running away from your problems. They tend to follow you. So, but that element of danger in that freedom is that you're not dealing with things that come at you inevitably as they happen. And I've been able to do that pretty successfully since I retired on the road. And those issues like interpersonal conflicts have been fewer than certainly they were in the workplace before I retired. But it's worth mentioning that some of the benefits of full-time RV life can act as an Achilles heel. And we were having a discussion about the breakfast. Many of the men with me have long military careers, and they have experiences all over the world. And many of them were telling stories about what people in communities are like elsewhere. And there was one gentleman talking about how there's almost no concern in some places for how much status you have, how much stuff you have. There's priority given to enjoying your life and your family and your friends as thoroughly as possible every day. And oddly enough, I'm not well traveled, but that part of the conversation came up when I told the story of being hired to do some computer training for a group of people at a bank in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I went down there. I was assigned a translator, and the class was to start at like 8:30 in the morning. I get there, the translator's there. He was a minute or two late, but he showed up. The students didn't show up until after 9, and I couldn't understand that. But they showed up, and everyone got organized, and I started the class. And like 10 o'clock, there's a little knock on the door. I'm like, oh, well, who's this? And I go over and answer it. It's a little lady, the push cart. She pushes the cart in. It's got little things of coffee. And the class gets up, and they have their coffee. And it wasn't like a big little thing like this at all. It was a little shot. And you think, well, that'll be over quickly. No, it was 45 minutes or so. And it was almost 11 o'clock by the time we settled back into the instruction. And guess what happened at noon? Lunchtime. And I'm like, I'm never going to get through this material. So everyone kind of went their separate ways, but the translator said, Rob, I'll take you to a nice little local place for lunch. And we were there, and they were feeding us a nice lunch with just a little bit of food at a time in many, many courses. And I'm looking at my watch and said, relax. We'll be here 2 hours. We're still going to beat them all back. Trust me. And sure enough, about 2 o'clock, we went back, and they shortly after started to file in. And we got about another hour of work done. And we were done. They were done at like 4:15. It was like, okay. They started packing up, and they left. And I got invited to dinner, and dinner was at 10 o'clock. Dinner went for 2 hours. It's a whole... And I was telling the story as like, isn't this a remarkable thing? And the other men at the table were like, much of the places that they visited have similar, very different things and different sets of values for how people spend time throughout the world. And I now, at 66, in full-time RV life, feel I have more in common with the people in Sao Paulo than I do with my old way of doing things when I was in the workplace. And so I find that really interesting. I think overall the most fascinating part of this whole thing is I felt the sustained feeling of peace and joy for so long, so consistently, that it's almost as if I'm dreaming and I think I'm going to wake up, because this was not a plan I had. I didn't construct this on purpose. You know, no different from many of you. I just wondered, what the heck am I going to do when I retire? When can I retire? Well, let's look at these videos. I like RVs. Let's watch this guy that lives in his RV. And I just kept watching. And something resonated with me, and something got in through to me viscerally, where there was, I think my subconscious saw this as, here's your opportunity. Here's your opportunity to live the life that you've always wanted to live. And I can't take credit for that. It was my intuition. Whatever powers my intuition, that soft voice inside me that isn't the conscious thinking, analytical, logical Rob. It's some other voice inside of me that I suspect has been trying to steer the ship since day one. And I just started listening towards the latter part of my life. So anyway, I can't think of much more to add to this. But boy, if you have thoughts about it, I'd sure like to hear them. So that's going to be today's video, and I'll see you again when? Tomorrow.